Stop. That morning workout you're doing might be damaging your brain right now. And I'm not talking about an injury. I'm talking about a silent fire inside your head. You see, the worst brain damage doesn't come from a fall. It comes from a slow breakdown you can feel. The kind that leads to confusion, or even a silent stroke while you sleep. Most people over 50 think they're protecting their mind with common exercises, but they're actually putting their most vital organ at risk. Don't let your good intentions become a memory thief. You might not notice it at first, but it's there. I know that sounds harsh. We've been taught that moving your body is always the answer, and most of the time, it is. But when you're over 50, some common routines can backfire on your mind, especially if you have silent inflammation. Your body is resilient, but your brain needs protection. Think of your brain like a classic vintage car. It still runs, it's still powerful, but you can't treat it like you did 30 years ago. We were going to look at 3 surprising things many people do right after that first drip coffee of the morning. 3 exercises that could be doing more harm than good to your long-term memory and clarity. Let me show you what that looks like in real life. I think of Mr. George, a retired history teacher I know. He's 68 and lives in a quiet New England town. Every Saturday, he'd meet his buddies at the diner for coffee and a big breakfast. He always prided himself on staying fit. He wanted to keep the same energy he had when he was 30. So every morning, right after his first cup, he did something almost everyone over 50 does. A fast-paced, high-impact jump rope routine on his front porch. He was pushing hard, trying to keep his resting heart rate low. But what Mr. George didn't know was that this intense burst of impact was creating microscopic stress, not on his muscles, but on his carotid arteries. The constant jarring, the sharp pressure spikes, it was shaking the foundation of his brain's blood flow. He started forgetting names, then appointments. It built up silently, like dust under the rug. And then one morning, he couldn't recall how to get to the same diner he'd been visiting for 40 years. His routine, the thing he thought was protecting him, was actually making him vulnerable to that silent, deep brain damage. Here's one that surprised even me. Exercise number 1. High-impact plyometrics, the shaking routine. This is the first danger zone. High-impact movements like jump roping, box jumps, or fast running on concrete. You might be aiming for heart health, but for many of us over 50, our blood vessels aren't as flexible as they used to be. The problem isn't the jump itself, it's the repeated, jarring impact. Think of your carotid arteries, the big highways in your neck that send blood to your brain, like old garden hoses. When you do sharp, high-impact exercise, your blood pressure spikes. That sudden, constant pulsing pressure slams against the arterial walls. If you have silent plaque buildup, something many people know they have, that intense shaking can start to break things loose. It's like a tiny earthquake in your vascular system. For the brain, this is a silent fire, the kind that ends in confusion, or worse. That repeated stress can create micro-tears and inflammation, silently starving your memory circuits of the oxygen they need. And that's how this habit can raise your silent stroke risk. Exercise number 2. Extreme heavy lifting with breath holding. Next, let's talk about a classic macho move. It's tempting to keep lifting the same heavy weights you used when you were younger. But watch what happens to your face when you do a heavy squat or a high-rep overhead press. You hold your breath. It's called the Valsalva maneuver. When you lock your core and hold your breath to lift a massive weight, the pressure inside your chest rockets up. Your body has to fight that pressure to pump blood to your brain. This creates a huge, sudden spike in blood pressure that's incredibly taxing on your delicate cerebral arteries. You're literally cutting off the relief valve for your brain. Over time, that constant, intense pressure can accelerate the hardening of your arteries. Imagine a dam with a crack in it. This type of high-intensity, breath-holding effort is like dumping a massive extra load of water on that dam. Over time, it builds up until something breaks, often at night, often without warning. The American Heart Association notes that sharp blood pressure increases are a key stroke trigger, especially if you already have hypertension. You trading a momentary feeling of strength for a long-term risk of brain fog and vascular damage. Exercise Number 3. Long, uninterrupted static stretching. This third one is the most deceptive. You think stretching is harmless, right? You see folks at the gym or in their home yoga routine holding a deep neck stretch or an aggressive rotation for a minute or more. But for the over 50 brain, this seemingly peaceful activity can be a problem. We're talking specifically about static stretches that put the neck or head in extreme, fixed positions, like holding a deep twist or pulling your chin forcefully down to your chest. When you hold a position that deeply contorts your neck for too long, you can temporarily compress the vertebral arteries. These are the arteries that run up the back of your neck and supply a critical amount of blood to the back of your brain. That sustained compression is like pinching the hose, restricting the flow. If you have stiff arteries, you're creating momentary mini-starvations of oxygen in the brain. This can lead to dizziness, confusion, and is a known risk factor for a devastating type of stroke. Instead of stretching, you need movement. Gentle, flowing motions. Don't pinch the life support line to your brain. This is the opposite of the clarity you need to bring to the Sunday potluck with a clear mind and steady hand. It's more common than people think. Have you ever felt that lightheadedness or confusion after a deep stretch? Here's the medical side. The key word is neuroinflammation. Intense exercise, especially the very vigorous kind, can create a surge of stress hormones and put major strain on your vessels. While moderate activity is protective, those sudden spikes from high-risk exercise are like pouring gasoline on an invisible fire. In a brain that's already fighting off early damage, your neurologist would tell you to focus on consistency and control, not raw force. Consider an assessment of your inflammatory profile. But here's the wonderful news. When you take these destructive exercises out, you create space for healing. Your circulation smooths out. The constant, silent fire begins to fade. That anxiety you feel about forgetting a name or misplacing your keys starts to lift. You replace the frantic intensity with purposeful, low-impact strength work. You feel the difference when you walk into the farmer's market. You're steadier. Your mind is sharper. You get back your internal GPS, that natural confidence and clarity. It's not about being 30 again. It's about being stronger, safer, and clearer at 50 and beyond. If that's what you want, here's what to do next.